Hey everyone, Isaac here, and welcome back to Painting Video. Today we're going over what it's like to paint the shadows in Scum box, but I am painting the shadow side, and my buddy Ross, he painted the brown blood side. Today we're going to be going over the Chimera side, and how it is to try to paint that in 5 hours, and it ended up being 14, and that's totally okay, because I was still happy with the results. The models are right here. They're glorious. So yeah, we'll get into the perspective, the ideas, and the inspiration, and the overall process of what I went through, and my steps and how I progressed through this paint scheme as it went along. So as you saw from the title of the video, we set out fresh from Adepticon, full of the keynote in our bloodstream, just driving us to paint as quick and as fast and as fun as we could. And we got on stream, we were going to paint the whole 2-player battle box. 5 hours each, 5-hour stream, basically 10 hours total of the box time. We got to about 4.5-hour mark. We were getting ready to wrap up, and we realized we're like 2/3 done. We still had plenty left. And little we know, that 2/3 ended up being like 1/3 at the overall grand scheme of things. So today I'm going to take you on the journey of how I went from, I can paint this in 5 hours, to this ended up taking 14 hours. I was a little discouraged, but I got through it, and I'm still very happy with the results. And after you get through it, you're like, that was worth it. It ended up being like 2 hours a model if you break it down, like 14 divided by 7, which is the amount of models are in the kit for the Chimera half. And I love this result. This is table ready, perfect for demos, which is what we're going to be using them for. And yeah, I'm just happy with it, and I'll take you along that process. So the inspiration for this set, and how I got to the gray, the mint green, and the pink that's on this Pythia right here, and the rest of the set. I really wanted something different. I wanted to use some colors I had never used before and hadn't seen on a lot of models. I wanted this kind of like Japanese, like cherry blossom theme, and that's where like the base comes from. In my head, the head canon of these guys is like they're crawling out of the caves of like the freshly born cybernetic ninja snakes, and they're crawling toward a cherry blossom forest. And that is where they get like, that's why like on this guy, half the base is like the cherry blossoms and the half is like the mud of like the cave structure that they had came from. Overall, the pre-mental image of this army and how I envisioned in my head, I came pretty close, if not spot on, to what I wanted, which is always a good feeling. There's some things I would improve, and we'll go over those at the end of how to better manage the color scheme, what I could improve upon, what I could take, where I could take this and make this even better looking for like further quality on just instead of just a tabletop. But to start out with, we're going to be going into the gray model. I primed them black, zenithalled them white on top, just to establish some of the shadows of that typical like slap choppy, like just using speed paints normally. Gray of the model. Pretty simple. I wanted to keep it very neutral tone so it had a strong foundation so the other colors popped more. After a pretty strong zenithal base, I speed painted the model Gravelord Gray. Doing the speed paint, you don't have to use a speed paint. You could use a pretty neutral gray or any other color, whatever you want to swap this to, and then just hit it with a wash after. And it's going to get similar effects to what the goal of this model is. You could even zenithal the gray over the black, and you'd have similar effects to what I was going for. After you do your speed paint or your base coat or whatever however you decide to do this technique of the sponge chop, I wanted there to be some more shadows and some more texture variation from beneath the model. I took coal black from Pro Acryl and I took a sponge, and I sponged from the bottom, adding the shadows to the lower part of the model, creeping up on like the middle part of where shadows would be, just to add that texture variation. There's some on the tail here you'll see, and you can see it better in the B-roll. I wanted that color variation coming up the model as we pushed the highlights back down to cover that up. Now using Pro Acryl Neutral Gray, which is a very similar tone to our base coat of Gravelord Gray or whatever gray you choose. This is where we're covering the majority of the model in the sponge. You can be a little heavier here. If you make mistakes, it's okay. We're using this as a kind of foundation texture to put on the majority of the model, cover up any pooling you had from the weird wash or speed paint, because that happens sometimes, and then just get it all over the model just to apply that like this is the base coat and core collar. The problem here became the model started hips gray. I'm painting this model gray. It looked very gray, and it was very hard to discern any details, any crazy colors. So I really just, and this step is where I needed to push onto the highlight, which ended up being Pro Acryl Bright Neutral Gray. This is where the model started to come to life, and this is where you're putting the paint just on the highest areas in the top down, almost like it's a dry brush aiming downwards. Doing this here, you're starting to get that, you're being pretty light with the bright neutral gray, and you're getting that pop of color on the different highlights, on the different edges, and you're getting that spongy texture that I like so much all over the model, and that's where this thing comes to life. And let me preface this. Sponge chop, sponging is like, it is not the be-all, end-all technique. This is not like competition level ready. This is, I have fun with this technique, and I think it looks great tabletop quality. It gets models done fast, and I have fun with it. And that's the most important takeaway from this.
We return you now to your regularly scheduled program.
Now that all the grays are done, the highlight's there, and you can start to see this model start to come to life. And this is where we're going to start picking out our other colors. So the first thing I'm going to do is pick out all the cloaks. The beauty of being gray as the foundation is it's also like a great color to take speed paint. Using Satchel Brown, I went in and just kind of blocked out all the cloaks, the leathers, all like the banners they have floating around them. And being the speed paint it is, I was pretty happy with just one coat. And we're going for tabletop quality, getting this ready for demo games, etc. So this was pretty good just off one coat. Moving on to the bronze, which was the third color we did after, first was gray, second was the brown, third was the bronze. This is where that model starts to feel like a model. You can see like the metals on the guy show up, everything kind of just pops and things start getting separated, and you can start seeing all the work you're put into the foundation gray of all the textures and stuff. It gets separated more, and then you can see them more visibly because there's more breaking it up. Which is weird concept because you're like covering up your work, but the parts that are still left, you see the work you put in. And this is where on stream we were wrapping up, we were hitting that 4.5 hour mark, and we realized, ruh-roh, Shaggy, we're not doing this in 5 hours. And that's where I realized this is going to take a lot longer than I thought it was going to, and that's okay. Ended up being the next day when I started painting the green on the wings. And this is when I realized it's going to take a while, because the green, I wanted to not mess up the gray that I had done before because it was looking very good. But the gray was very bright. It's this minty green. It's bright pale green from Pro Acryl. I love this color so much. I've been wanting to use this for a while. It's been sitting on my paint rack for probably months. But it took 2 coats. And 2 even coats took a while. And that took probably like 3 hours-ish of being really precise. Now trying not to mess up the gray at all. Getting into all the tiny little fins, because they have like the little shark fins all the way down. Baylix has got it too. He's got all the little baby ones down here. And getting them all just like perfect as like much as I could, because we're not going for studio quality here. We're just going for get them on the table. Still took a while. After that, we went in with the speed paint, Ghoul Green. I wanted something to add a shadow to them without taking away the color of that like pastel green, which Ghoul Green ended up being perfect for. So put it onto my pop socket as my palette, thinned it with like 2:1 with water, and it just flowed perfectly exactly where I wanted it. Let it dry. Took the bright pale green again and used a sponge and put the texture back onto that, so the texture would be matching the same kind of texture that was on the gray, and it would have it on the wings to go with it. Now I ended up having to use like a small little dry brush and kind of just stab that onto the wings for some of the small areas, because some of the wings weren't as like, they were kind of folded shut, and they're cybernetic wings. They're not like super organic. So they were folded shut over on top of each other. So I had to take the smaller brush and stab in the paint, and it gave a very similar effect. The wings, as I finished up the wings, there was something about them missing, and I didn't know what it was. I knew I was still happy with them because I had done the base coat, the wash, the highlight with the same base coat, and I was like, this is cool, but it's missing something. Then I grabbed the box art, which I'm going to do right now. And I saw this like bubbly scale texture on the big boy, and they had it on some of the other wings too. I don't know what it's supposed to be. I'm assuming it's like scales of some nature, or like some kind of just like transparent effect from the power of the wings. I'm not sure. But I was like, I need that in my model. And earlier I had done the sponge when I was doing the shadows. I really liked the black on the tips of the wings. Like it was creeping up. And I was like, what if I did that on the green part? So I just grabbed the sponge and stabbed from underneath and added this like texture kind of creeping up the back of the wings. And it was like, at that moment, I was like sold on the effect of the wings. It looked super good. And like, that was like sealed the wings into being perfect for what in my head, what I wanted the wings to look like. That is what it was. And it's like that little, well, not mistake, but just idea I had earlier that kind of like cherry blossomed into more ideas later in the model using the same techniques we've been using this whole time. Kept it very in theme of the model and style of the model. Now this is where we're going into shading the bronze. And I didn't want to do just a simple wash. I was thinking maybe I'd just do a silver highlight, keep it simple. But I also switched it up and I was like, I'm kind of tired of working on the model. I want to work on the base a little bit. So I grabbed petroleum brown, put it on the base of the model because I was like, oh, it's a dark brown. It's a gloss dark brown. It'll be perfect for like a mud base. Put it on the base. It was super thin, kind of transparent. I was like, this is not what I want. And I put a bunch out in my palette. I was like, what do I do with this? And then I had the bright idea of just like, what happens if I put this on the bronze? Because it was transparent, because it was kind of runny, it acted as like this wash, but also a gloss coat. So it made the metallics pop a ton. And I don't know if it's going to be picked up from here, but you'll see, as you see in the video right now, the metallics look fantastic. They added to the shine of the metal, made them feel more metal. And then it being kind of a wash, it went around the bolts really well and added a lot of shadow and depth. And with Valix having the giant chain, because he's like basically Kratos from God of War, I painted those first with steel from Pro Acryl. And then I put the petroleum brown over top of it and kind of tinted them to be not the same color of the bronze, but just an off shade, so you could tell that there was two different metals going on. So yeah, petroleum brown. Happy little accident. And if you have another use case for this, let me know in the comments below. I'm curious what else I could use this for now after having worked with it. So now we're on to the details of the model. We've got the gray down, we've got the green down, we've got the gold kind of figured out. Now it's coming down to the details, the base, the little books and stuff that he has, the caltropes that he has. I started out with painting the teeth on everybody, just using a simple ivory and just kind of going in and painting all the teeth the same color. I didn't do a lot of foundation on it. I just did the gray. I just did the ivory over the gray and let the sponge chop and like the shadows from the gray be the shadow for the ivory. It's not perfect, but it looks good. It's something you can take further later if you wanted to. Moving on to the glow. Wanted to block it in all first with a bright color, so just use simple Pro Acryl Bold Titanium White. White inks work just fine for this too. Just putting that in all the areas that the glow would be, spots that you want to pop. Using the box art's a great reference for this. And then it wouldn't be an Ice King video if I didn't use some fluorescent pink or fluorescent color in general. Starting out, I mixed pink and fluorescent pink to have that foundation, because the pink from Pro Acryl is very good, but it's very washed out. It's very pastel, it's very simple. It's like too simple almost. So I added the fluorescent pink, probably a 2-to-1 ratio, just to punch it up a little bit. Applying that in all the areas. You can be a little sloppy here because it's going to look like it's glowing a little bit, and that's okay. Now that I've got all the pink done and all the pinks blocked in, I still wasn't happy with how vibrant it was and how much it kind of just faded in, because the gray is already kind of flat. That's what it's supposed to be. It's gray. It's not supposed to be fancy, but the pink didn't stand out enough. So that's when I took just fluorescent pink, which ends up, all the fluorescent pink paints are a little transparent. Just went in and traced over it, and that was the last bit of like punch to vibrancy that it needed for me to enjoy it the most. And you could probably do 2 more coats of this, it would be super bright. And then on Pythia, I ended up just taking the brush, is stabbing it onto her effect to add like variation to her orb wand thing. And I tried to do it in her wings, and I liked it, but I was like, this is not going to look good if it gets too crazy. So that's when I switched to the brush on everybody else and just kind of penciled it in. I definitely recorded this out of order, but now we're putting it all back in order in post. The magic of editing, right? Use Vallejo texture. Painted this like a dark brown. Any dark brown will do. I'll have the real one on screen right now. Covering this and you can be a little sloppier on the edges of the rock for the ones that have the tactical rocks, because it's like the mud coming up the side. After this, dry brushed it, some kind of khaki. I used drab brown from Pro Acryl. Super simple, that's it. Wanted it to be not the highlight of the model. For the stones, we used, this is my first time actually using AK paints, and I was very excited to use this because I was like, oh, I have an excuse to use this paint, because I just bought this at Adepticon. Put it on the model, I was like, this is the perfect gray for the foundation of the rocks. So I put that all over all the tactical rocks. After that, I dry brushed a neutral gray, the same gray that was the same color as the normal one. I didn't go super bright on this because I was like, wait, I don't want this to be the same texture, the same color. So I made sure to do it more streaky instead of less dots and sponge effect. And then for the final highlight, I mixed in red gray with the neutral gray to shift it toward like a brown tone. of the rock. And that way, when I dry brushed it, I made sure to get that dry brush, like chalky effect. And that would separate it texture-wise enough where I was happy with it. And that way you could tell the difference between the rock and the model, because the model is mostly gray. However you normally add tufts, you add tufts here. What I did to make this, like the leaves from the cherry blossoms had fallen down onto the grass and they had stuck there. I took the PVA glue, brushed it on top, and then sprinkled the cherry blossom leaves on top. And that gave me a pretty cool effect. I only did it on part of the base. And on Valix, I added it to kind of where the wind had blown, it would stick in the leaves, or if it had rained, it would run into the cracks of the rocks. Not sure how realistic it is. I just kind of did it because I liked it. I thought it looked cool. One thing I would definitely improve on for next time is like the teeth and the mouth and like the claws. Spend more time on them. Do like a dark brown base coat, layer up to ivory. Do a little bit of like sketches, so it add like the bone striations that they're on there, just to have a little bit more texture on that part, because right now it's like it's one coat over a gray. The shadow of the bone is black, which isn't like normal, but it still looks good on the table. And like the whole idea of me doing the simple just ivory was to keep that time constraint down and put my time into things that mattered more on the model to me at the time. So definitely something you can loop back to at the end. After a few battles, you get some preps in and you're like, man, I want to put more time into this model because I really like this army. So you've made it to the end of the video, huh? Well, Valix thanks you, and so does the rest of the two-player battle box for the Chimera side. And so do I. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. This was a fun one to make. They're definitely fun models to paint. If you haven't got a chance to paint yours, definitely give them a shot. If you have, tag me when you paint them and post them. I want to see all the different color schemes. I love seeing all the different like variations that everyone, all twists and turns they put on the models. Hope you guys enjoyed mine, and I hope you enjoyed the journey that I got from step 0 to step done. It was a lot of fun. And by the way, before I close this video out, be sure to go to the 500 subscriber YouTube short, link below, and comment and like and subscribe if you're not, because then you get entered for free to the Adepticon convention exclusive Old Embry model, and I will be sending this out to anybody who comments. We'll pick one person this Saturday, April 12th at noon at the end of the stream to see who wins this. I'm very excited to give this away. I'm very excited from all the hype. You guys, all the comments and stuff have been awesome to listen to. So thank you. Just a million thank yous all around. I can't say that enough, clearly. I'm rambling now. So I will wrap this up. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.